Hey guys, thanks for joining us again on this episode of The Basement. I'm joined by some returning faces and one new face. To my left here we have Johnny.
What's up?
Robert.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And then to my right we have Denzel. And then our new face today is Abraham.
Hi, hello.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Abraham, thanks for being on here. You're the new one, so thank you. Today we're going to be discussing something kind of important, or very important, and very relevant for today's world. We're going to be talking about the role of men and I guess how we should go about being men, carrying ourselves as men.
But it's also going to be part of a series where we don't just talk about men's roles in a home or anywhere, but we're also going to be talking about women's roles. Not on this one, but there's going to be another episode talking about women's roles, and then there's going to be another episode kind of colliding the both.
So I guess just to start, what do we think? What is it? I guess a general question. What does it mean to be a man?
That's for anybody to answer.
Yeah.
Just well, maybe we could ask a specific somebody. Denzel, what do you think?
I don't know if there's a specific definition, because a man is also formed by his culture. What's expected. For example, in Africa, the culture may dictate something different from in what happens here in the Western world. I guess my best answer would be formulated by seeing what the Bible conveys about who a man is. And
what is that?
God, well, first and foremost, man is made in God's image. And this is from a biblical perspective. He's also the head of the home. He still should worship God. He should fear God, have a respect for God. A man is a leader in his environment in terms of how God, in the hierarchy of the home setting. He is supposed to also be a provider. And this is primarily from the biblical perspective.
Okay. Staying on this side, Abraham, what do you think?
Well, I think being a man is like trying to, I guess, like represent for like leadership and stuff. I guess in a way be like that alpha male or whatever. Like provide, and like also take care of like if you have a family or like you're a father, like take care, provide, and all this, so that what your children can like grow up and like provide the same, do the same thing as you did, in a sense, I'd say.
Okay, that was a good perspective. So what about Robert?
Well, I think you guys nailed it. But I think if anything, I would probably say what makes a man is the fact that a man's going to do what it takes, not what he wants. Not necessarily what he wants. So he wants to do something, that's great. But sometimes as a man, I believe, you just have to get things done whether you like it or not. That's part of being a man, and I see that very much so, the difference between being a man and a boy. Because the boy wants to do what he wants to do.
Right.
Where a man doesn't necessarily gets done what he wants done. He doesn't have a tantrum if he doesn't do it his way.
Right.
He gets it done because it needs to be done, whatever it takes.
I think that was well said.
I didn't. Oh,
Getting a little bit of feedback.
just a little bit. I kind of just wanted to add, not really. Oh, wow. Hello. I kind of wanted to add, not really, because you guys nailed pretty much what, I think we all think. But kind of adding, I guess, like an anecdote to what you said, Robert, about doing what needs to be done. For like the first, I want to say like 7, 8 years of my life, my father worked 2 jobs. He would work night shift at a warehouse, and then he would get off and then pick us up, and then he would go work his second job at a car dealership. And like for the majority of the week, I wouldn't see him until like Sabbath and the weekend, because he had to we needed money, and he did it because we needed to pay for house. They put us through private school, food, clothe us, and he did it because he had to.
As a matter of fact, and I'm echoing the sentiments of Robert, I agree. It's not, when you get to a point where there are responsibilities, it's no longer a choice. It's a responsibility. And one of the things that I've noticed when God created man, the first thing that he gave to him was not even woman. It was work, responsibility. Yeah. Gave him work. And the unfortunate thing, if you should look through our society, and I think it's one of the escalating problems, is that people they don't want to work. We are, in the industry that I work, which is healthcare, we're having a shortage of workers, not because people lack the ability to work, but because people don't want to work. I discovered something on my phone a while ago in the process of looking, and there are a number of responsibilities assigned to men, and it actually gave 12 different definitions of what a man should be or what a man should aspire to be. I will not go through all of them, but if it's leading with work, it tells how important it is. And the society is actually built on that. I mean, other than a man knowing God, leading his wife and children to God, because that's another important aspect of it. There should be some spiritual responsibility as well, established in the home, as a man being the priest of the home. So in conjunction with work, there also has to be some spiritual responsibility added to whatever he has to do with his household.
Agreed. Yeah, I was just going to point out, like when Adam and Eve kind of already ate of the forbidden fruit and everything, and then the Bible tells us like man is going to till the land, like they're going to have hard work, they're going to work with their hands, they're going to be providers, they're going to be workers. That doesn't necessarily mean that comes natural, especially nowadays. But I do remember when I was a child, my dad would ask me to do things. I would do them because my dad asked me to do them. And then, I became a teenager, I did them because I knew they had to get done. And then as a man, I have certain responsibilities, and I do them because now I take pride in my work. Now I know it's not just this thing that I'm groomed to do. Now I see how it plays out in my life. I do these things because I play a part in my home. Like, I'm a father, I'm a husband. What is my job to do? My job is to make my family feel secure. My job is to make sure my family feels loved. My job is to provide for my family. And if that means going to work where, I come scratched up or have, squished my thumb or whatever, that's the kind of work that I know that I can do that provides for my family, and I'm not scared to do it. So in all of it, it's a man's role, not just even, let's just say a certain man doesn't have a wife and a certain man doesn't have a kid. That doesn't mean that responsibility doesn't fall on him anymore. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of people who fall away from that because the less responsibility somebody has, And I want to more or less say that, like, in conversations, I want to say that's the difference between being a boy and being a man.
So I just want to, I'm glad you said that. I wanted to make note and make it very clear that age has nothing to do with whether you're a man or not.
Interesting.
I don't believe it is. I think that you could have a human, a man, who is 50 years old and never becomes a real man.
Good point.
And you could
So
have,
biologically, it's not sufficient enough.
absolutely. And then you could have a young man, 15, who mans up to do what you're doing. So you're manning up, you're doing the responsible thing. This is, you know what, I don't necessarily maybe don't want to do this. This is something that needs to be done. I'm going to take that initiative and say, you know what, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to get it done.
I agree.
So may I ask a question? Is it possible then, you alluded to your dad actually being exemplary in showing you how to become a man. We're living in a society where a lot of men are grown up by mothers. Is it possible for a man to still show these exemplary qualities funneled through the eyes of a mother?
That's a really good question.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I'm a man and I was raised by a single mother. So it's this fact that you are shown responsibilities and you are made to see that these responsibilities are yours because you are the man of the house. When you have two older sisters and a mother and you're the youngest of them all, you are the man of the house. Your responsibilities to perceive, right, as a child, that you are going to take care of the rest. That mentality, that state of mind goes into play. And as you grow up, you start looking around for actual mentors. So I don't necessarily think that it's impossible for a young boy to become a man if there's not a father figure. I think it's hard.
Definitely harder.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder, but not impossible.
I want to give an example to what you were saying, Robert. A couple of years back, I was at a park just hanging out with a couple of friends. And I was, I guess it was a few years back because I was a single father at the time. And I was at the park and I see this young kid and he's selling elote, which is, the corn with all the
Good stuff.
Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Good stuff right there.
This guy's cruising around with the cart, and I look at him, and he looks like he's this guy's age.
Which one?
Abraham. Abraham. And he has no facial hair, no nothing. Young, but he's pushing this cart full of corn and the other snacks they sell on the cart. And I would stop him because I just wanted a snack, my daughter was asking for corn, so I stop him and I ask, hey, and I look at his face and I realize, like, hey, you are really young. Yeah. And I saw, as he's making the corn that I ordered for me and my daughter, I said, hey, like, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? And he said he was 15 years old.
Whoa.
And I said, okay, what are you doing? You just like trying to make some money on this? This is your side hustle? Like you're at school and stuff like that? And he told me his mom had cancer. And he said that his mom was the only one that was bringing him money in the house. And he was too young to work and get a job. So he picked up this cart and he started selling corn at the park. And so I said, wow, how long have you been doing this for? He said, my mom just started chemo like a few months ago.
Right.
And so I've been doing this ever since. She's been too weak to work. And so I said, all right, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not rich, but what I am going to do is I'm going to tell all my friends over here on the side to help me buy out your cart so you don't have to stay out here all day and you can go home.
Right.
And so we bought as much as we could.
Wow.
And we I'm not trying to I'm not trying to take no glory, but I really felt for this kid.
Right.
Because he was 15 years old, but he knew what he had to do. And that was what kind of adding on to what Robert was saying.
Yeah.
Like, he knew he had to fill the role of a man. He knew that there was a responsibility and he needed to meet it. And he said his mom didn't even want him doing that, but he did it anyway. And so, yeah, definitely you can be a man in that atmosphere. You could be a man in this world when there are less real man roles being filled in this world.
So I have a scenario. What about cases where some kids are grown in a sheltered environment? Parents insist that we are the providers. We don't primarily want our boys or girls to experience this aspect of life and its hardship until a certain point. Do you think that benefits in the definition of this young man becoming a man?
Do you mean like sheltering?
Yeah.
You mean like providing for this person, not asking them to lift a finger or anything until they hit a certain age, right?
Because the reason why I'm saying this is because society's trending in an area where a lot of young men, their parents provide for them. Some times I'm hearing mothers are saying, he's still a child. I do not think he needs to learn this at this point.
And he's 25?
Possibly. As a matter of fact, it's a growing trend that a lot of young men are still living with their parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Robert, you got anything?
I got something?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's healthy to over coddle your children, whether you're a male or
Male
female.
or female.
Either one. I don't think it's the right thing to do. That's me personally. Obviously, everybody parents a little different. I don't think it is always necessary for somebody to say, I had to get a job at the age of, 15 to help support my family. I don't think that is going to constitute or make you more or less of a man. Right. Absolutely not. But I do believe that taking responsibility for things does. And showing responsibility to your child is of utmost importance. Whether you are filthy rich, you still have to be responsible for, this is how I'm able to take care of myself. Or teach them the trade or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that is of utmost importance. Is it affecting people? Absolutely. I think now, certain generation, millennials, not saying much, but
It's not us. It's not us.
but they're 20, 30 years old and they're still home with mommy and daddy.
That's correct.
And it's like, you know what? Suck it up, get up, go. Because you're not gonna experience those heartaches or grow much until you fall a little bit. And I think sorry guys, but your generation
That's fine.
is kind of soft.
I agree. Which is actually kind of leading me into another question.
Perfect.
We've been talking about what it means to be a man, what men do, what men should be doing. Do you think, I guess you kind of already told me what you think, but do you guys think generations are losing what it means to be a man? Do you think they're becoming more emasculated?
Abraham.
I'll say, yeah.
I think they are because
I like this. I like this.
Oh.
This is
Because-
in the
Speak,
boldness.
bro,
in
speak.
the boldness. Yeah.
I'm seeing based off like the internet, social media and stuff. I'm seeing a lot of people staying like with their mothers and stuff, not going on to the work. They're expecting them to provide for them, like everything for them. And then they're not getting up where like I'd say like maybe like 20 years ago or so, whatever. They're as soon as like the man, like the child or whatever reaches adulthood, he starts providing for himself. But now like when they reach adulthood, they just decide I'm gonna still let my mother do everything for me. They really do not like get up and provide for themselves.
So I have a question for all of you guys. The word or something that you used was masculinity or emasculated. So what does it mean to be masculine?
Everything that was mentioned before.
Which is what? That's a cop-out, bro. I'm sorry, but that's a cop-out.
Yeah, call him on it.
Being
Okay. All right.
Go on.
Biblical-
Go ahead,
bro.
Go ahead. Go on.
Biblical definition, or
Yeah.
based on what I've just read, and this is, I'm just reading from this. First of all, we established that work is paramount, very important. To be courageous. It's rare that a man and a woman is going to be in the house, or in my definition. There's a strange noise downstairs, and he's going to, hey,
Yeah, tell her to go.
your turn.
Unless you're Dawson.
My wife is very strong.
So, so one of the things, it's being courageous, to be strong, and the reference comes from 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Oh, I didn't know that. This one is
Yeah.
new to me. To love. To
I
love.
like.
This is, I mean, we can elaborate on it. To be a husband, to be the head of his wife. There's going to be a little conflict with that.
We'll reach that one on the
To
couple
serve
blog.
sacrificially.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
I'm almost finished. To be a father, I mean, some will not be. To be compassionate, to provide, to be accountable. I think Robert alluded to that. And the last one is to be honorable.
And that constitutes masculinity, according to the Bible.
According to the Bible.
So, big, because I can't, bro. I love it, but I can't grow it. That has nothing to do with
No.
being masculine.
Yeah, it does.
Just kidding.
No, see, because you.
Hey, that hurts me and Dawson. I just like to say that.
If you're looking at the outward appearance to define masculinity, then in our present day society, where individuals are transitioning, and it's imperative for you to appear a certain way, then we're going to have a conflict of interest, because masculinity is intrinsic. It's within. It's not necessarily a superficial thing, because you can have someone popping a number of pills, hormonal pills, growing facial hair, but then there are natural experiences that you're going to have. For example, and I'm even coming from a biological perspective, a wet dream, which is the ushering of manhood. And we're getting into the biological aspect of it.
Yeah.
And some people may cringe at it, but it's part of what we
Yeah.
go through as
Yep.
men. Some individuals will never experience that, and then you're going to actually convey to me that you are a man. It's gonna be a little hard for me to swallow that pill. And there are other biological aspects that makes the distinction: a larger lung, a bigger heart, muscle mass. These are just the biological aspect. But
Right.
the intrinsic also is the courageousness, the ability to lead. And I'm so happy that Robert stated this without having to actually think of it from the perspective of, oh, I'm helping my family. No, it's your responsibility.
Right.
This is what you're placed here to do, which is totally different from. Go ahead.
Kind of a question to throw in there. So we're mentioning that these are things men should have. So does that mean, do you think women should also have integrity, accountability?
Absolutely.
We're gonna save that for the women's thing. I was kidding. No, definitely.
Yeah, but remember, in my definition, I also said the head of the wife, unless it's two women having wives, but the head of the wife.
Yeah.
And sacrificial, meaning Christ pointed to himself as the husband and the church being his bride. And he stated that he's willing to lay down his life.
So let me ask a question then.
Yes, you may.
Are there different degrees of masculinity? For example, we talked about courage. Some of us are a little more courageous than others. Talk about leadership. Some of us are stronger leaders than others, right? Talk about providers. Some of us are stronger
Better
providers than others.
Yeah.
Does that mean if you're a not such a great provider, you're not that courageous, and maybe you know, whatever, does that mean you're less of a man?
No, you notice what you've just done.
Less masculine.
You've still qualified the man. You've touched on each thing, but you're now looking at degrees. The degree.
So are there degrees of it?
The degree doesn't lessen the man's responsibility, because the only purpose for you looking at it from the perspective of a degree is one of comparison. You're only able to look, if you're looking at two men, you both will not be equally being courageous and equally being a great provider.
So my question again,
So-
are there degrees of masculinity?
I would say no. Because he's still providing to the best of his
Thank you.
ability. So no.
I was gonna throw that question back at Robert just to see his opinion. I was
No,
like,
no,
he
no,
asked
no,
the
no,
question, but I want to know
No,
where he
yeah.
stands on it.
And that's exactly where I stand on, because I think that as men, okay, as young men, I think sometimes I think
Outdo.
you're a young father, you're not a father yet, newly married, not too long. Sometimes we put that upon us. I have to provide up here.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily, that doesn't make you less of a man if you are not bringing in, $300,000 a
figures.
year,
Yeah.
6 figures.
Right.
That,
Nice.
that doesn't. It's the best of your ability. Now, the fact is, you can't just say, well, I'm just going to sit on my happy little one
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Right.
And there's a paycheck here. Okay, I provided. See? No. You still have to work.
To the
You
best of your ability.
to the word is best. So do the best that you can, and that's good.
But that doesn't even stop at workforce either.
Right.
That like, okay, we did mention that you guys aren't fathers and stuff like that. But like for me, I go home after work, and yeah, sometimes it's a really hard day at work. And at the end of the week, I do bring home a paycheck. But that doesn't mean that my responsibilities end there. When I walk through the door, then I have to make sure my family feels loved, make sure my family feels secure. And that's a
Right.
responsibility that I don't take lightly.
Yeah.
That, you can't just walk in a house and expect everybody to do everything for you. Although I do try to teach my own kids responsibility by having them do certain things like their chores and whatnot.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I still don't come home with an expectancy to still take care of my home. So the responsibility doesn't end at work or how much you bring home. You just live it every day.
I have a question. Okay, so we're talking about like working and stuff. So what if you're like I guess like you are born or whatever into a rich family? How would that kind of work out then?
Oh, very good question.
I say, Dawson, what do you think?
You said rich family?
I'm not going to call out any influencers by name, but there are some influencers that had rich families that got them started, and you can look on social media. They just look like spoiled brats, and they grew up to be spoiled brats, and now they have a lot of money throwing it around, acting like they could bet anybody anything as long as they throw enough money at it. And I feel like integrity, honor, and all that stuff is thrown out the window. Do I consider that masculine or a man? No, I don't.
Here's something that, and to answer your question, the fact that you were born into a wealthy family does not negate you being proficient in handling the money.
Yeah.
So, and handling money is much harder than you think.
Absolutely.
So you can be born and you're rich. And I was looking at something recently posted on YouTube where this guy, he played in the NBA. He made millions, and they have a picture of him holding up a sign saying, "Feed me."
Wow.
There is another case where I saw on Oprah, and this was really telling. They gave a guy, took a man off the street, gave him $1 million, and in a month he was broke. $1 million, and in 1 month he had no money. So the being rich, it's wonderful, but God has made us with the ability to we have to still work. You still have to work your money,
Yep.
even if you're rich.
Well, there's a parable about that, right? It talks about, they giving them
Talent.
Talent.
the talents,
Yeah.
right? And each one did something a little different.
Right.
I think that goes to prove whether you're still a boy or you're
Yeah.
a man. So if
Yeah.
I believe if I wasn't born in a rich family, but you have to be able to take what you have and make that
Yeah.
even more, or
Yeah.
take the responsibility to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this. Everybody has different kind of gifts, and obviously that's one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of a random question.
Right.
Always.
I don't know if you guys have heard of this term before, but it's called toxic masculinity.
Yes.
I want to know what you guys think about that. Does it exist?
I don't know what it is.
Yes, it does.
So
It does exist.
Let's define
Let's just
define
break it
it a
down.
little bit. Define it. If you
I don't
can.
have, there's not like a definition,
No,
but
just,
basically
like, generalize.
toxic masculinity is the guy who how do I describe it? Is over robust, is loud, annoying,
Which you would say like is the over manly guy.
over macho.
Yeah, so he's got like the deep voice, grows the biggest beard, has the biggest muscles, shoots guns,
Yeah.
blows things up.
And what's wrong with that?
It's if we're looking at it from the perspective of the world, I guess it might be flattering.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from the perspective of someone who has a relationship with God, it's not. Because one of the things that a man has to know how to do is love.
All right.
But that doesn't mean that just because you're big and brawny and loud and doesn't mean you don't know how to love.
no,
Yes,
definitely not.
To some extent, you don't.
No,
because
I disagree. That's
Okay,
personality.
fine, you may disagree, but love is suave. If you look carefully at the definition in 1 Corinthians 13 about what love is, one of the description is self-control. The person who acts a certain way and being loud, normally it's going to be in a situation where it's repulsive to someone. Within the confines of who you are as a Christian, no one is going to look at you and describe you as loud. As a matter of fact, they're going to look at you and say, Robert is so suave. And just the way you carry yourself, you're going to earn the respect of their onlookers. Not because of you being pushy, because the person who's toxic, there is a reason why toxic came before. It's the prelude to masculinity. It's because it's somewhat off-putting.
Here's what I believe, Denzel. I believe that term was derived by somebody who has alternative motives and believes that if you are too masculine, you're wrong.
Okay.
Okay,
Fair enough.
and the fact of the matter is that some of us, personality-wise, not even talking cultural,
Right.
some of us are louder than others.
Yeah.
Comparatively,
Some of
yes.
them are just loud. Let's not even. That's just personality. Now, if we throw in culture, and then you throw in socioeconomic to that,
Right.
it's a different level.
Okay.
So if I'm going to walk into Wimbledon, right,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be loud and I'm going to start cheering, people are going to have an issue and call me
Toxic.
toxic.
Right.
And let's just look at the Serena and Venus, right? Williams girls. The actual ladies, when they started getting into the tennis and they started wearing certain outfits and they started doing,
Right.
they were like,
Right.
you don't do this. when you go into into a certain situation, people in that environment are going to call you toxic because they don't understand where you're from and they're threatened by who and what you are.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I do believe that there's a difference between overly imposing that to others. That's a different story, right? When you're thinking, well, I'm a man, I'm gonna beat you up.
Okay.
That, I believe, is toxic.
How do we do? How as Christians, and I'm coming from the perspective of Christians. I'm not coming it from
The worldly perspective.
culture.
Yeah.
I'm coming it from a Christian because I want to punctuate the premise for a Christian young man. If you should look at the fruit of the Spirit, it gives a slew of definition. Love, this, that. One of the things that Sister White wrote about when she described Jesus, it says, he had the ability to be heard, but he was not loud. And we're going to look at it from a different perspective based on our upbringing, how we perceive what life should be. In my opinion, this is just how I look at life. I think someone should be able to know who I am with just based on my decorum.
My question to you is this, biblically.
Yes.
The brothers of Thunder and Samson,
Right.
were they toxic?
Samson was toxic.
He was toxic?
Yes, he was.
Or
Listen, okay, let's analyze Samson's life. Let's really analyze. First and foremost, he broke a number of rules that he should not have been doing. His parents guided him and told him, and by the law that was given to him, what type of woman he should be pursuing and who he should interact with.
that could same be said for a lot of other biblical characters, including Abraham.
That's true, but notice also Samson's end. Notice his life. Notice the things that he battled with.
How did he die?
Huh? Suicide.
Why?
Well, primarily based on how his life started. Some of the decisions that Samson made throughout his life were errant. How Samson regained some form of stability in terms of spiritual recognition is the fact that he confessed eventually. This is how wonderful salvation is. Even if you read it again, look at how he.
No, I was actually about to say that the Bible is full of people that are not faithful to God, but the thing that I've noticed even through like every single person, you guys mentioned Abraham, you guys mentioned Samson, you guys mentioned a lot of other people, and yeah, these are people that are mentioned. God used these people, but these are also people that have failed,
flawed.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I used to think when I read the Bible that these were people that I was like, oh, these were just these holy people. These are dudes I got to look up to.
Right.
But then when I started reading the Bible and I started seeing a different perspective, it's not about their faithfulness. It's about God's faithfulness.
Thank you. Another thing that we should also realize, if you look at the life of Samson, it is also made as an instruction for us what not to do.
Yeah, I think
because no one is going to emulate Samson's life.
What I'm trying to get at is
won't.
the characteristic of what you consider a toxic masculinity.
We actually got a couple of things just in telling us about a little bit more about toxic masculinity, but I did want to share with you guys a trait of masculinity that I grew up with, just to kind of base it a little bit off of that. I grew up in a family that was, at the time, very heavy in drinking. Mm-hmm. So my example of a man is someone who works out, someone who has a fit physique, someone who can drink a lot of beer and keep going,
right?
Somebody who could just, get up, walk out, do whatever they want to do, throw their money on the table, and just have confidence and all that stuff. So those people were also people that used to talk to other people in bars And they also used to be like the life of the party. You could actually see these people when you walked into the bar, like people were gathered around this person and they were buying them drinks and all this stuff. So like my perspective as a young man seeing all this stuff is like, wow, they really like this guy.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
so since they really like this guy, and that guy, I'm kind of basing people out in my own family. I just don't want to call him out, but yeah, they really like this guy. This guy's funny. Everybody's laughing at his jokes. Everybody likes him. When they leave the bar, they're gonna be like, "That guy's cool. I like that guy." And so my version of masculinity, I'm like, I want that. That's the kind of masculinity. I want to grow up to be that kind of man. But as I got older, I realized the morals that I grew up with, those were different than the masculine man that I had once seen
Right.
doing all that stuff. So we're gonna, you got it, Dawson? You want to read it? The things we have about toxic masculinity.
So, toxic masculinity involves cultural pressures for men to behave in a certain way. And it's likely this affects all boys and men in some fashion. Toxic masculinity refers to the notion that some people's idea of manliness, it says in quotes, perpetuates domination, homophobia, and aggression. Masculine traits that are considered toxic include using or threatening violence, controlling others, acting aggressively, suppressing emotions, trying to appear tough, treating sex as a competition, feeling entitled to sex from others, using power over women, in quotes, weaker men, and marginalized groups.
So in saying all that stuff, I want to give a chance for Abraham to kind of share with us like what your thoughts are about toxic masculinity. I know that we kind of are sharing a lot and there's a lot going on around you, but I really want to know your perspective on your thought process on it.
Well, my perspective on toxic masculinity is, well, like before I actually say, like boys or whatever, or teenagers, whatever, trying to becoming into it, like going into adulthood. Because Dawson read like a couple like descriptions of what a toxic man is. So, and one of them was the lack of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So, should males in general have emotions as well, or should they just like hold them in, like, because like no one really, because you know, I'm pretty sure people's heard the thing. I've heard people say people do not care about men's emotions; they only care about females. That's why they're females are always like the most focused on thing. So I was just wondering if like that's.
I knew it was good to have him on here.
Let me, I guess let me
Set the standard.
let me talk.
Yeah.
So growing up, my mother and my father always stressed that it's important that you be honest with how you feel.
Wow.
And you say something. Something that was always that my parents always said was, don't swallow seeds of bitterness. Never suffer in silence. So
That's the exact opposite of what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Well, because my parents, they both grew up in completely different households. My mother grew up in a household that was very, very, I guess without talking too much trash, very, very dominated by her father. And then my father he only had his mom. And coming from those childhoods into adulthood, they understood that like it's normal to feel emotion. Right. It's okay. Taking it out on others is not okay. Right. That is not what it means to be a man. It's manly to be honest with yourself, to be honest with others.
It's also Christ-like.
Absolutely.
So, did you answer the question? Is what the answer was? What? Have feelings?
It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to express, as long as you're not expressing it to someone else's. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you're not harming someone else, and you're not harming yourself too.
I want to say that there's a lot of culture out there that like is completely opposite of what you just said. Literally, like you got something to say.
Boys don't cry.
Yeah.
Boys don't cry.
It's true.
like
It's in my culture, your
suck it up.
culture, your
like
culture.
there's a
it's all our
reason
cultures.
there's a reason why you're in trouble. Like I don't need to explain myself, and you don't have any right to come to me and tell me how you feel, kind of thing. And so I grew up kind of opposite of that, but I still, as a man, came to the conclusion that you can share your feelings. It's all right to cry. I want to say that that's something that I didn't grow up with, knowing. I've never seen my dad cry. Never ever in my whole life have I seen my dad cry, except for one time. And that's when I asked my dad, is it okay to cry? He said, it's okay to hurt. And it's okay to cry. And he said, because a man isn't a brick wall.
Yeah. I don't know if my upbringing is fortunate or unfortunate. Both parents are Adventists, so I may be leading with quite a number of bias here. Because what's instilled in me is primarily through the lenses of the scripture. So my premise primarily for anything, life in general, is filtered through the scriptures. God created man with emotions, and it's even stated in the scriptures, and it's sometimes to some people's bewilderment is be angry, but don't sin. So, and if Jesus, and we're supposed to be Christ-like, wept, that speaks a lot for as it relates to our emotions.
I want to ask, just to change it up. I know that we're really, we really broke a few things down culturally, I think, like an upbringing, but like more of basic things, just kind of to basic it, make it simple.
More relatable?
Is there's a lot of people out there, I mean, I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody.
Do
but,
it.
Yeah,
Say it.
But there's been a fight a lot over the years over equal rights between.
Come on now.
Yeah, right.
Keep saying, keep going,
equal
keep
rights
going.
between men and women, right? Okay.
Correct.
So, in taking the turn, even saying that goes entail with as simple as, is it the man's job to fix the car kind of thing? Or is it, like more or less like, are we putting are these responsibilities still considered of male responsibilities? Or are these things that are not just fixing the car, but also, being able to do the landscaping or mowing the lawn and all this stuff that stereotypical man stuff, right? That you see in the movies. The man's always out in the front yard working on the car, or he's mowing the lawn, or he, doing all this other stuff around the home. And then there's, obviously we'll get into the woman stuff on another day, but do you feel that those are valid still?
Funny you should say that. We at home back in the day when I was a child, my parents for devotions would read Adventist Home to give us a perspective of what we should. When it came to the role of a man in the book Adventist Home, it's about this thing. When it came to the role of the woman in the home, it was about this thing. And just by looking at the size of what's stated for a man, we're talking about a man's role, but the man's role is not as profound as that of a woman's role. However, from a cultural perspective, there is this influence that we are equal. Scripture doesn't relate to that. Doesn't see it that way. Because if you should look at the Bible and it talks about the role of a woman and a man, it talks about servitude, subservient, and not in a negative way. because the woman's role is extremely important in the household. As a matter of fact, because our society has suffered because of this, because whereas a woman has that influence in the household to make the house her domain, there is this notion that I want to go and venture out, and I do not want to stay and interact. It's even in was it Proverbs? Proverbs, when it gives a description of who a woman is, and it talks about what she
Proverbs
does.
31.
Proverbs, exactly.
Yeah,
in the
Proverbs
home.
31.
This influence is not there. Some pastors would be brave enough to say that this movement is demonic.
I've heard that debate, definitely. But I also, I would really like to get Abraham's opinion on this, because one day you're going to grow up, you're going to have a home. You're going to want to know, or not want to know, but you're going to want to have a vision of what you imagine your household would be like, how you would treat your wife, or if you had any expectations for her or expectations for yourself. What do you think?
Well, before I answer that, like, I just like equal rights, I feel like goes back within history, I'd say, because within like all the, I'm just gonna do the example of war, I would say. In the textbooks, it's always saying men are dying, but like, and always the women's are staying, but then now like they want to change that up, but I don't know. It's like they're always expecting like them to be equal, but when it comes to like back then, they just let it happen. They didn't mean any, like, they just put it through.
We got to get a lot of more young people on
This
here.
guy, this guy's
This guy, yeah.
But like to answer your question, yeah, I'd say like keep it equally, like not like, you know, the male should do all like the hard stuff, like fixing a car or mowing the lawn or like actual like yard work and stuff like that, and like the woman should like stay like in the house and like fix it up and everything nicely. I feel like it should be go both ways.
Okay.
Like the man should also help with like the woman, like the inside and stuff, like fixing up everything, and it should go like outside as well. Like
I want to add on to what you're saying.
Nice.
It
Wow.
like more goes along with like how I feel is like fitting ability. You know what I mean? Not necessarily a gender or something like that. But if I have the ability to do this more than my wife does, then I will do it. I'll take care of it. Why? Because it's my responsibility. Oh, did I tickle something?
You did.
You did?
You did, because you're talking about your physical ability.
No, not physical, just ability.
But a lot of it has
No,
to do with your physical ability.
Yeah, to some extent it does.
To a lot of extent. We're talking about biologically. We are
Yes.
usually, not all the time, bigger, stronger,
I'm glad you
Right.
just made that
Yep.
distinction.
right?
Usually.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
Usually.
Usually.
Okay, usually. I
Yeah.
think 99% of the time, a man's usually stronger than the woman. Not all the time.
Don't Google that,
Okay,
guys.
don't Google that. But the point is this. The point is this. I believe that these roles are important, and I believe as a parent, it is our job and our obligation to teach the youngsters to be able to do that.
Did.
Because what's happening is kids no longer know how to mow a lawn
Yeah.
or change a tire because it's easier to call AAA,
Yeah.
right? But you have to be able to do certain things, because it's not just the fact that you're doing it, but it talks about, it goes back to providing. It goes back to
Yep.
keeping them safe.
Yep.
It goes back to that biblical sense. It's not
Yep.
the fact that you're changing a tire.
Yep.
It's the simple fact that you're saying, you know what, sweetheart,
Yep.
my wife, you stay in the car.
Chill.
I'm gonna
I'll
go ahead
do-
and do this.
yeah.
I'll take care of you. Versus, mija, there's a flat tire. Why don't you go ahead and take care of that?
I'm scared it's dark outside.
I'm gonna go wash the dishes. You go do that. No.
What if she is way better at changing a tire than you are? And what if you are way better at washing dishes than she is? Why can't she wash dishes? Really? I just want to throw it out there.
Really?
Not saying this is what I think.
Okay.
I just
No,
want to
no,
say.
no,
Exception to the rule. Really.
Yeah, there's always
an
exceptions
exception
to
to the
everything.
rule.
But the simple fact of the matter is, we're called to be a little more courageous.
Yeah.
We're called to be a little more, what did it say?
The scripture says, I call on you young men because you're strong.
Stronger, right? Because so
Bible
there are
chills.
things that I believe, and maybe
Facts.
I'm wrong, that men should do or take the initiative of doing. You know, and vice versa. There's some other things. If I'm mowing the lawn, maybe you're sweeping inside,
Yeah.
right? And of course, you said that the book is this small for men,
Yes.
right? And that big for women.
women.
Okay. And then Abraham made that point. Okay, you know what? I'm done over here. Let me
Yeah.
help you over here, because I know the housework is still a lot more to do. I'll fold the clothes, no problem. I'll wash the bathroom, no problem, right? But I'm gonna take the initiative as a man is to provide and to take care of. As a man is you. It's like I don't want to take out the trash, but I'm gonna do it.
See, what sometimes society fail to understand, the responsibility of nurturing children and being at home, as much as how I may bring in the bread, to actually make that bread stretch is not an easy task.
No.
This is why when you read Sister Adventist Home and see what Sister White states as to what a woman should be doing, it's a lot of responsibility.
And then we got to take into account that things have changed quite a bit from 50 years ago, 100 years ago to
Right.
today. In order for most households to work, you have to have both
Both-
incomes.
yeah.
So you're
Yep.
both working. So
Yeah.
therefore,
Yep.
those roles of I bring in the food and
Food
you
and
cook
stuff,
it, that is not working
not
anymore
happening.
because she's bringing in the food too.
Yep.
See,
Yep,
see,
yep, yep.
another thing that, and I may say this.
No. I'll wait.
I'll say this and quiet and be quiet. Scripture talks about the two becoming one flesh.
Absolutely.
The two becoming
Yeah.
one.
Right.
Is there a division in the one? There's no division in the one. There
'Cause it's
is
one.
an understanding in
Yeah.
the one. And when you converse with a woman, most women, they want to be protected. They want to know that this guy's able to do this.
Even if they could do it for themselves.
Look, here's this. Before I met my wife, she lived by
That's
herself.
that's definitely true. This
didn't-
guy's chomping at the bit. He wants to
All right,
say
go
something.
ahead,
Go on, Abraham.
go ahead.
So I was gonna ask another question, because now that's like how everything's always about like equality and stuff. But what if and there's also going around people changing their sexes or genders.
Oh, snap.
It's a whole nother segment.
Sounds like another episode.
Okay.
Um,
Ask your question.
What if the man switches his role to a female per se, and the vice versa for the woman as well? How would that work out? And
That wouldn't work out because it's unbiblical.
It's not within God's plan.
Okay, theoretically, we'll say if that did happen, how would that work out?
I wouldn't be able to tell you because I'm not
I want
there.
to
dude.
want to
That's
say
not.
that even in our examples of those relationships, I'm going to say that there's a whole lot of struggle because they're still struggling with their own identity to even figure out what role they're playing. So yeah, that's going to be complicated. But I do want to say something only because we're running out of time. We actually ran out of time, but I do want to say for one thing, this is a great opening for this because next segment is going to be the woman's segment. Okay, and they're going to be sharing a whole lot of stuff, and I actually really want to watch that one.
I want to watch that.
Yeah,
too.
because I want to know if they're as adamant about this as we are, and I also am going to look forward because we've brought up a lot of good things, and I hope we can also remember what we said because we're going to be held accountable in the third recording of this when we meet together with men and women, right?
It's right here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
it's all good.
yeah, then we got nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I want to thank everybody for coming on and sharing your opinion and even though we're all different ages, we all have different backgrounds, and that's kind of what we were hoping to bring out in this segment. And I want to thank you, Abraham, specifically.
Yes.
You were brave and bold and courageous for coming on here. Knowing that you are a lot younger than us, that you were still brave enough to step up here and still share with us your thoughts, and we appreciate that. We do. And you want to close out in prayer this one?
You?
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for forgiving us. Thank you for always being with us and for always providing for us. Thank you that we have this platform where we can discuss things that we feel need to be talked about, especially in our world today. I thank you for each individual up here, willing and courageous enough to be up here and speak what's on their mind, speak their piece, Lord. I thank you for that and for their honesty. I pray for everybody who's watched this and hope that they got something from this. And please protect each and every person here as we all go our separate ways. Thank you for everything. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.